Ladies and gentlemen, I am so thrilled to welcome to the studio a man that I've talked to on the radio for so many years. Honored to have the great Michael Barone, who, of course, is a senior political analyst at the Washington Examiner, best-selling author, and the author of a brand new one just out yesterday and climbing to the top of the Amazon charts in its category, Shaping Our Nation, How Surges of Migration Transformed America and Its Politics. Welcome, sir. Glad to see you in the studio.
It's nice to see you in person.
Well, thank you. Okay, all right. So let's I want to talk about the book and all that, but first, your insight, your valuable insight into where we are and where we're going with this shutdown, and then, of course, the debt ceiling.
Well, I blame James Madison and the 39 other signers of the Constitution because they disperse power between the president, who gets to run the government, and the Congress, which funds it. And that suggests that there's sort of a constitutional duty of consultation. Our current president doesn't seem to have faithfully executed that part of the implicit Constitution by stating, I do not intend to negotiate. I will just veto anything that's different from exactly what I want. I think we may be seeing a little bit of a climb down on that. I think the Republicans have gotten themselves out on a limb, and they take some risks with public opinion and government shutdown, although the pre-shutdown polls are not quite as ominous for them as those before the 1995-96 shutdowns. And in this case, they are campaigning, or at least yelling and screaming, against something that's unpopular, which is Obamacare. So let's go back and blame James Madison.
Well, yeah, no, and of course, Obama is going to meet with the congressional leaders. Boehner supposedly talked with Harry Reid today, but Jay Carney has indicated that Obama, he said Obama doesn't want anything, so there's nothing to negotiate because he doesn't want anything. Well, then what are you having him to the White House for?
Well, this is a president who seems to be an individual that doesn't like...
What are you having him to the White House for?
Well, this is a president who seems to be an individual that doesn't like...
Speaking, yeah.
Yeah, we know that the August 2011, when we had a breakdown of the grand bargain negotiations, the poll ratings for both the president and for the Republicans in Congress fell, and something like that is possible. But, you know, one of the reasons we have this crisis is demographic. It's related to something in Shaping Our Nation.
And that's in the book, yeah.
Which is about surges of both immigrant migration and internal migration. And in this case, it's about internal migration. The last 40 years, since about 1970, one of the things that's been going on in the U.S. is what I call volitional migration. People have been moving from high-tax states to low-tax states, and people have been moving to places that are culturally congenial. So that has meant that we have more heavily Democratic localities, more heavily Republican localities, fewer target states. Democratic voters of the Obama coalition, blacks, Hispanics, gentry, liberals, tend to be clustered in certain big cities.
Yeah.
Here in Manhattan, we may be in the midst of one.
Yeah.
And they cast huge margins for Democrats, which give them an advantage in the Electoral College because they clinch certain large and medium-sized states, and they got those numbers
right away.
going
They're locked
in.
up, yeah.
Republicans don't have that kind of cache of electoral votes in the bag. But Republicans are more spread around the country, so when you have equal population districts, you have Republicans are at an advantage because Democrats are clustered in a few districts. Republicans are spread out and carry more districts.
So this migration that as you've defined it and are talking about it right this second, is that beneficial to Republicans?
It's beneficial to Republicans at the legislative level.
Right, but not the presidency.
The presidency, it's worked out for the Democrats at the electoral. So Obama had an easy majority in the Electoral College, 332 votes. But when you look at how many congressional districts he carried, he carried only 209. Mitt Romney carried 226 districts. So it's not a surprise in a time of straight-ticket voting that the Republicans have a majority in the House of Representatives, as they have in 8 of the last 10 congressional elections, and that they feel entitled to try to advance their policy preferences.
Yeah, no, and their argument is, you know, Congress was elected as well, and these congressmen who are voting the way they are reflecting the views of their constituencies. We don't base our policies and laws on, well, this president won, so everything he ran on he gets, no matter who else is in Congress.
Well, James Madison and 39 others wrote a constitution that doesn't put all power into the president.
But that's an inconvenience. It's a flawed document, Obama has always said.
Well, he seems to be not faithfully executing some parts of Obamacare as well.
Well, how does he get away? Would you tell me? How does he get away with picking and choosing parts of a law? His argument is it's the law of the land, yet he picks and chooses who has to follow that law. How do they let him get away with that constitutionally?
Well, sometimes you have issues that are not testable in courts under judicial doctrine. Ultimately, the power rests in the people. Go to the polls periodically and elect people, and no decision is ever final.
We're talking to Michael Barone. He is the author of a great new book, Shaping Our Nation, How Surges of Migration Transformed America and Its Politics. It's out yesterday, so it's out today here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Let's talk about where we're headed, maybe with immigration and how that might influence migration, or how the immigration might just affect American politics in general. I say it's suicidal for Republicans to approve this immigration bill, because 99% or 90% of the people who come in are going to vote Democratic, and no matter how far the Republicans go, they'll never satisfy everyone, so they'll be called, an impediment to real immigration reform.
Well, one of the things I found in looking through the data is that surges of migration, whether immigrant or internal, typically start when no one expects them to. And going back to the Scots-Irish coming over before the American Revolution, going up to the volitional and immigrant migrations of the last 40 years, they only last 1 or 2 generations, and they end when nobody expects them to as well. People are coming not just for economic incentives, though those play a role. They're coming to pursue dreams and escape nightmares. One of the things we've seen is that the Mexican migration, very huge from 1982 to 2007, all the projections were for it to continue forever. It stopped in 2007. We've had no net migration from Mexico, and I think that is part of, not just because the economy crashed, that's one reason. The other reason is if you look at where the foreclosures of houses were in 2007 to 10, heavily Hispanic areas, probably 33% of them. These were people that had a dream. They'd work hard, legal or illegal. They'd get a mortgage on terms that the government gave them too easily. They weren't credit worthy, and then crash. They hoped they'd come out $300,000 ahead. That's a dream if you started off in rural Mexico. Well, instead their dreams were shattered, and now I think the United States looks less like a dream to them. Well, instead their dreams were shattered, and now I think the United States looks less like a dream to them. I don't expect that we'll ever see that kind of migration from Mexico again.
Even if with legalization, if that comes?
Legalization, well, we've got the number of illegal, the Census Bureau estimates the number of illegal Mexicans in this country has declined by 900,000 since 2007. Now, the number of those from other countries is correspondingly up a little bit, but the fact in 2011-12, but we've got fewer illegal immigrants in the country than in 2007.
Folks, there is nobody who during election time, or if you want to know right now what chance the Republicans have to take back the Senate or focus on a single congressional district and a 2-block radius of that district, Michael Barone is the man. He always has been, and he translates all that into how migration has transformed American politics in shaping our nation. And I hope we'll call on you for political analysis in the future, as always.
Absolutely.
All right, Michael, pleasure and great luck with the book, sir.
Okay, good to see you.
Michael Barone, the senior political analyst at the Washington Examiner, ladies and gentlemen. And again, Shaping Our Nation. I am holding it in my hand, now hands, for those of you watching it at Newsmax TV. When we come back, marijuana, the legalization of marijuana, the usefulness of marijuana. I still say it's a gateway drug, and we're heading in the wrong direction. I have a 14-year-old kid. I don't want to legalize pot. Wrong message. Actually, he's 14 today. We're coming back on the Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV, and radio.